it's quite often common for people to say, don't care about what people think about you. Things like that, like, oh, just don't give a shit. But you're working, I believe, you're working against a system in your body. But just like anything else, this can be manipulated or altered or adapted, whatever you want to call it, So I still agree to an extent with those sort of black and white ideas. I think it's good not to give a shit, but you should give a shit about people you respect. And I don't have there isn't an answer or probably a way I'm going to be able to articulate it, and I'm not all the way there with it. But a lesson I found for me is there are good enough people who are there, in relation to you, you relate to them, you share something, and it's good to care to a degree what they think of you, not to put any stress on you, but it fulfills what I would believe is some kind of tribal input, that we're not meant to be on our own, we're meant to be physical and intimate physically, and that doesn't just involve sex, that involves contact with other people. Even if you're not touching, you're just stood in a room, that is still intimate, and we crave and need it. I am what people would call an introvert. I also have autism, but I love talking to people. I love being around people still. I see within myself that it is a biological need. But I feel happy with the space I've got into with it, where I can generally not give a shit what people think, but it's not in this abrasive, oh, I'm a teenager, I don't give a fuck about anyone because I just don't care, but more so that it doesn't need to consume me. I'm not anxious, I'm not worried, I'm not pressured, I don't let myself believe I'm going to be socially humiliated, because there is no real such thing, Yes, there is, of course. Of course, if you're isolated and you don't have anyone, and your only opportunity for communication ends in that, then yes, it is a thing. But once you are free from these, places you're forced to go to, you can pick. And it's hard today. Do you know what? It is horrible. I feel incredibly alone, and I'm very lucky to have the friends I do, but it's because we're all separated through screens and jobs and distance. So I know how hard it is to even find anyone, and sadly I don't have anything useful I could share. But on the upside, you have that choice to seek and to find, and in a way to pick and choose. And there again, there are extremes, but generally, it's your bread and butter. I mean, if you just put forth an honest show of yourself, but with some politeness, you will share conversations with people you would probably look at on the street and go, oh, well, I think about some of the people I've opportunely spoken to, because it's something I've done for a few years, and I'd not been doing it for a while, but the past month or two, I had a few instances where I made myself go out and have these interactions with strangers, and my God, the perspective it would bring you, and the feelings it gives you. And I'm not saying anyone has to subscribe to this, but ultimately we're all trapped in a body, and we're all going to rather it feel nice than not. And one of these ways is to socially relate, to realise you are not an alien. We all are, sadly, today in a way, but it's not permanent and it's not fixed, and there are these instances and they will make you feel so much more human connected. And the best thing about them is you don't sit there and conceive it and explain all of it. You just feel good and you know why, and it's so clear. And I'm not saying everyone's going to have that. I'm not educated on things like, you know, there's a thing called schizoid personality disorder, where people are, you know, actual introverts to the point that they completely isolate. But then, you know, I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's just, you know, I would see it as just lacking a chemical component or pathway, but I don't know. But generally, most of us wired do seek that, and I just believe it's for the same boring reasons of tribal, but that doesn't have to dilute the magic you can get from it. Again, what works for me is not going to work for anyone. I understand if the language I sometimes use comes off as advisory, but this is something I want to be careful doing. I just want to share my voice and perspective. I don't think I should be telling anyone what to do. But anyway, for me, it brings me a joy far beyond a lot of things, and it makes me happy falling asleep knowing I could drift off and die and I'd feel okay, and my fears don't hold me because I have that human touch, that connection. And again, it's very simple. I believe it involves nothing more than being sat in a room with people you can talk to without any kind of, you know, silly proxy. You don't need alcohol, or you don't need a game or a show to watch. You sit there and you talk, and you ask each other questions, and you have discussions, and you just generally give a fuck. That is the most important thing, and that is the most transcendental thing I have found at very bad stages, is that I'll have these conversations and they will feel magical and they will reinvigorate me. They will really, really put me on some perspective, and they will take me outside of myself, which is valuable because we all spend too much time within ourselves. We are reluctant to go out of the internal sphere, out of perception, out of thinking. I'm terrible for listening to people. I can say it's because I have ADHD, but it's just something of me. I think there is obviously a reason, not something that takes all my accountability. The reason I can't listen to people is because I find it uncomfortable, and I a lot of the time won't put myself through that uncomfortable. There's a chemical reason for that, but moral or not, I'm not going to define it, but I'm basically refusing to be uncomfortable. But again, I have found instances where I've really, sometimes I've not had to. Sometimes these experiences are just so magical that I'm pulled, and that is very often the case. But sometimes I have just taken a breath and realised, there's nothing dangerous about, going outside yourself. You're not leaving yourself. You're not drinking the Kool-Aid. It's very easy to do that if you are a people pleaser, but this is a conversation for another day. I'm a people pleaser, and so it's very easy to do that. But if you're not, it's very good, and even for a people pleaser still, it's a very good thing to get out of your head and experience what it's like to just be with somebody else. A refreshing encounter out of, doesn't matter how vast your mind may be or how chaotic it gets boring in its own way for the content or the lack of, no matter. Is that there's such great value just from being with each other, just from talking with each other. I stress that more than anything else. It's that it's too easy for there to be proxy these days. It's online, Discord, via chat, or even in person, the television, or something's on. It's just, stand outdoors, face someone and talk to them. And don't just talk about the weather. Ask them, what reason do they have for keep living? What motivates them in the face of all they see? I'm not pretending these are profound questions. It's because I'm trying too hard, but I hope someone who gets the subtext. But that's the point. It's just remove yourself from all these obstacles.